Catfight, go. Well, this is an epic catfight because it's Donald Trump versus the entire Republican Party. The Trump tapes come out on Friday. He's said some outrageous things that, if he actually carried them out, would be sexual assault, and there are some charges that he has in the past. So a lot of Republicans pulled the chute. This is outrageous. I got to run, man. Mike Pence spent about 48 hours mulling whether he should drop out. And then after he thought Trump did well in the debate, he immediately sent out a tweet like, yeah, I was always with Donald. Sure, of course, it's been a great honor to be with. Then why weren't you around, and why did you cancel events in the last 48 hours? No. They were all thinking of pulling the chute. John McCain pulled the chute. Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire, in a tight race, pulled the chute. Joe Heck in Nevada, as we're going to show you, who's trying to replace Harry Reid. So Trump got super mad, and he started tweeting out warnings, threats. You know how Trump is. Trump will tell you that,
moved on her like a bitch.
That's how he's going to move on the entire Republican Party. So he says, so many self-righteous hypocrites. Watch their poll numbers and elections go down. He's not talking about Democrats. He's talking about his own party, Republicans. He's threatening the entire rest of the Republican Party. If you don't support me, I'll tell my voters and my supporters not to support you. In some ways, this is Democrats' dream come true. Look, it could have gone the other way, and for a while, he was way, way too close. But right now, Hillary Clinton's opened up a double-digit lead, and Trump is out there not only punching himself in the face, but starting to punch other Republicans in the face. He sends out another tweet. Jonathan Martin, in his tweet, explains, saying Trump talking points urge total war on Republicans. Quote, they are more concerned with their political future than they are about the future of the country, which actually describes Donald Trump to a T. But there he's saying, hey, man, fall back in line. Now, how is a guy like Paul Ryan going to react to this? He's the Speaker of the House, very important Republican in the country. First thing is he puts out a statement about the tapes. He says, I'm sickened about what I heard today. Women are to be championed and revered, not to be objectified. No, the Republican Party would never do that. Then, Talking Points memo explains, after the tape came out, Ryan disinvited Trump from attending a rally in Wisconsin, which is supposed to be their first joint appearance together. But as they go there, and Scott Walker and Ron Johnson and all the other Republicans from Wisconsin are there, serious grumblings in the crowd that Trump is not there. Now, wait till you hear the crowd for Joe Heck in a second. And now, all of a sudden, we're like, oh, he might have the Republican voters on his side. Okay, then Ryan's trying to thread the needle, and he says Ryan reportedly told members that for the next month, he's going to be spending his time ensuring that his members win their re-elections, that each member should decide how best they can do that in their districts. So he says, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You do what you're going to do. I'm at a loss here, right? I don't want to piss off the voters, but at the same time, this is a disaster. And at the same time, I'm going to say I'm going to spend all my time trying to help you guys win and not worry about Donald Trump. Apparently, people are pissed at that, including some of the Republican congressmen. They call him, and so he's got to call back. And according to a report from CNN, Ryan immediately began getting criticism from members who said Ryan was wrongly ceding the election to Hillary Clinton. Ryan reportedly had to get back on the call to reiterate his position that he was not actually unendorsing Trump. So, to me, this shows a couple of things. Number one, they're a House divided, and the Republican voters are saying to these politicians, I don't care what you think your sensibilities are. No, I am as ugly as Donald Trump. You created me. This is who I am. And you're either going to get on that ugly train or I'm going to kick you off of it and you're not going to have anything left. So Scott Wong says, breaking, now Speaker Ryan tells House Republicans he is not rescinding the Donald Trump endorsement for now, but won't campaign with him either. Well, they're trying to have it both ways here, and I don't think they're going to have it in any way. They're losing their own voters, and they're certainly losing the respect of any independents and the rest of the country who would consider voting Republican. So now we get to how Trump is reacting back to him now for the next volley. And here we're going to hear from Thomas Reynolds, who's a former chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committees. And the New York Times explains that resentful Trump backers, Mr. Reynolds said, could, quote, end up coming in and voting for Trump and stopping there. Now, if they do that, then the Republicans are royally screwed. If some go in and they don't vote for Trump, but they vote for other Republicans, that actually doesn't happen that often. Well, they're in trouble at the top of the ticket. But if a lot of them come in and just vote for Trump, but won't vote for the other Republicans because Trump told them not to, then they're going to get killed in the Senate, and they might even lose the House. This is a serious, bloody civil war. Now, here's Joe Heck. Over the weekend, he's a Republican candidate in Nevada trying to replace Harry Reid. Thinks, okay, man, these comments about, I got to say, here, I don't have to say it here, I'll play it for you. This is what Donald Trump said.
Grab him by the pussy.
About women, right? It's unbelievable. So any politician would come out and go, no, outrageous. I can't support a guy who's talking about grabbing women by the pussy. It's insanity. So he does what he thinks is normal and sensible, and look at the reaction he gets.
I can no longer look past the pattern of behavior and comments that have been made by Donald Trump. Therefore, I cannot in good conscience continue to support Donald Trump, nor can I vote for Hillary Clinton. My wife, my daughters, my mom, my sister, and all women deserve better. All Americans deserve better. Our campaign will move forward, and will continue to be based on the principles of the Republican Party, the need for conservative leadership, and the requirement that all people are treated with respect and dignity. My hope is that this will not divide us, and that we can unite behind principles, Republican principles. We deserve a candidate that can ask themselves at the end of the day, did I live my life with honor, and do I deserve to be elected President of the United States? I believe our only option is to formally ask Mr. Trump to step down and to allow Republicans the opportunity to elect someone who will provide us with the strong leadership so desperately needed and one that Americans deserve. Today I stand here disappointed in our choices for president, but more committed than ever to bringing the same code of honor, decency, and respect to the U.S. Senate. Thank you for being here this afternoon and this morning.
There, right there, is the Republican Party. So, yeah, it was mixed. In the beginning, there was a couple of cheers when he said, well, he shouldn't have said that. And then plenty of boos when he said he's not supporting Donald Trump anymore. One woman who was very insistent, as he's saying, we should have honor in the country. She's like, boo, boo. America deserves better. Sing it out, boo, get out of here, boo. Right? And then when he said that he can't vote for Trump, even more boos. So there they are. There they are. Don't pretend that this is not the Republican Party. It is. It is. So then Katrina Pearson comes out, of course, a Trump surrogate. She says, I can't keep my phone charged due to the mass volume of texts from people all over the country who will vote Trump, but down ballot, not so much. Another threat to the rest of the Republican politicians. Fall in line. Otherwise, we're going to hammer you, and you're going to be in a world of trouble, and you're going to lose your seats. So, last point on this is, who do you think wins this war? Trump wins it, because he won the voters already. We had a giant primary, 17 people ran. People keep thinking he didn't win, like, but there was too many people running, and they split the vote. No, they had every opportunity to beat him in every conceivable way. And they didn't. More people voted for Donald Trump. More people voted for him when there were 17 people in the race. More people voted for him when there was 3 people in the race. More people voted for him, period. The Republican voters like Donald Trump. Get it through your thick head. So he's going to win that war. But that goes to one other point. If he becomes president, some think, oh no, the Republicans will do the right thing and they will put country above party and not let Trump do so. Are you kidding me? If he kicks their ass like he's doing right now, he will get every one of them to fall in line. A lot of them because they already agree with him. And some of them because they're like, what am I going to do? I don't want to lose my seat. Yes, sir, Mr. Trump, sir. Absolutely, sir. That's how strongmen operate. And, you know, that is how they take over countries. And here he is. He has taken over the Republican Party, and he's got them in a headlock. So, yeah, it's a big-time war. But there's a clear winner here within the Republican Party. It's Trump. Now, he might destroy the party entirely with this strategy, but he doesn't care. He's all about himself. And that's the reality on the ground right now.